All right, I've got 401, so we're going to get started because we've got a lot of ground to cover here. My name is Rob Layton. I am the Executive Director of iMission Institute. We work exclusively with nonprofits to help in their digital transformations. That's a mouthful. I'm not going to try to explain that right now. Jump over to our website to understand what we do. But more importantly, what today is about. It's about the Connecticut nonprofit Salesforce users group, which we started about a year ago. It was a LinkedIn group. It still is a LinkedIn group. If you're not already part of that group, we encourage you to hop on a LinkedIn and come over and join the group. The purpose of the users group is to, Salesforce, the Kinetic Salesforce users group is really a community of Connecticut nonprofit professionals. We're coming together to support digital transformation. That is really being able to do more with less, to work smarter, not harder. That's what digital really is about. It's not just about tools, it's about how we do the work and how we make impact. And we're really networking together to learn about, implement, integrate, and expand. What we're talking about is one of the most powerful ecosystems for transforming our organizations, the Salesforce ecosystems, not just transforming our organization, but how we work across organizations in collaboration with others. Again, we kicked this off about a year ago on LinkedIn. We have in excess of 50 members now. So thank you for all the members who have been participating over the last year. And it's been virtual. Last April, we were supposed to have our first meetup. That was to spend some face-to-face time to learn together like we're going to do today. But it was really the power of the Salesforce ecosystem. It's really a community of thousands of people. Something in excess of 30,000 nonprofits are currently using Salesforce for various aspects of what they do. And there's a very large community of people, experts, users, consultants that are involved with Salesforce. And that this was a time for us to hopefully, and hopefully not in the too distant future, we'll be able to have face-to-face meetups, get to know each other, and support what we're all doing. So the agenda for today, obviously, is Salesforce and fundraising. So we're going to cover four things: Salesforce NPSP, get to know those initials. Nonprofit Success Pack. It used to be the Nonprofit Starter Pack. It's now the Nonprofit Success Pack because there's a whole lot more. We're going to give you a quick overview. Then Salesforce fundraising at Sarah's organization, MMRF, the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation. Sarah is really a power user with other folks working with her. She's a certified Salesforce person multiple times, 2 times over. And she's going to talk about their experience, their journey, and the process that they're going through with Salesforce. We're going to open that. We're going to then open it up for questions, and we're going to finish off with just giving you some updates on what Salesforce is introducing. Introduced a couple weeks ago, and will be introducing this summer as they continue to develop their platform. All right, so to start, Salesforce nonprofits and digital transformation, again, a mouthful, digital transformation. It's one of those real hackneyed terms, probably overused, and I apologize, but it actually has meaning. And that, again, many people come to Salesforce for one function or another. Today, we're talking about fundraising. So the Nonprofit Success Pack has lots of different built-in workflows for fundraising. They integrate with a variety of analytics. So if you're using iWave or Donor Search or Wealth Engine, you can get the data parked in Salesforce, and then you can start coupling it with other information about the giving information to your organization, how they connect and interact with your communications, all sorts of good stuff that allow you as an organization to use digital data to qualify who you want to have a cup of coffee with, for instance, who you want to send a direct mail piece, who you want to just continue to interact with virtually. And then on top of that, there are apps galore. Sarah's going to mention many of those that support and expand and make much richer the Salesforce experience and the Salesforce capability. But I just want to emphasize that unlike many other fundraising platforms out there, Salesforce is a broad platform that can cut across your organization. Again, many organizations that we work with start with Salesforce on the program side, not the fundraising side. For marketing communications, Salesforce can be used in many, many different ways, whether you're integrating MailChimp, Eventbrite, Constant Contact, other tools, other features. It can plug into your communications broadly. And so it's a very exciting opportunity to understand who's saying what to whom and how. So again, you can qualify. And then increasingly, there's the opportunity to use this platform for community engagement. How do you engage with volunteers? How do you engage with activists and advocates and activists and so forth? It is, as I say, an entire ecosystem. We'll come back to that in a second. So what's out of the box in NPSP, out of the box functionality? Obviously what we have is, and when we talk about Salesforce, it's important that you take time, Salesforce isn't like walking into an auto dealership and saying, I like that car, and you put the key in the ignition and drive away. All these things, and I don't care what application it is, all this stuff takes some learning. So it's important that you spend some time thinking about the data structure. And within NPSP, there's obviously the basic data, personal data. You can capture their interests, their address, their birth dates, just lots of different information. The ability to customize a field, to add a field about somebody, their ethnicity, any number of things you might want to think about in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion. You can incorporate into Salesforce the basic personal data. And then what's as important is this notion of understanding social networks. Now, again, social networks were not created by Facebook. We are social creatures. We've created social networks. We live in social networks, and it's social networks that bring huge amount of power to whatever mission we're trying to advance. So Salesforce lets us, through a variety of different mechanisms, something called the household account, an organizational account, understanding relations, husband and wife, son, daughter, friend, colleague, and being able to map that over time, and also map those to different organizations. That Jane can be both a donor and Jane can be a program officer at the Ford Foundation. And you want to be able to map those things. And of course, there's donor data. Lots of different ways that Salesforce NPSP tracks donor data and gets you to have a better understanding with donor data with incredible, and I'm telling you, incredible reporting capabilities. And finally, basic to NPSP is volunteer management, where you can, so again, a big challenge to managing volunteers is everybody has to come into your organization, you assign them, and that takes a lot of time. With Salesforce, there's an ability to let people sign up for their own shifts, for their own activities, for their own events. Lots of different ways to improve donor management built into NPSP. So before I turn this over to Sarah, I just want to emphasize that Salesforce is an ecosystem. Don't think of it, it's a platform. You can think of it as a platform, you can think of it as an ecosystem. Don't think of it as just another piece of software. So Salesforce as a core platform. Upon that core platform, there are apps. There are apps that have been developed by Salesforce, like NPSP, like the Volunteer Management app. There are native apps. There are people who build applications that actually fit right inside of Salesforce. They're not integrated, they sit inside of Salesforce. They just happen to be created by somebody else. Salesforce, because it's an open system, an open source cloud-based system, allows for that. And then finally, there are apps that stand alone and are integrated. And finally, there are custom builds that if you have a particular need and you can't find an app to do it, you can build it yourself. Generally, we encourage everybody to look for something that's already developed, because that's been troubleshot by hundreds, if not thousands of people. So this is Sarah. Welcome, Sarah, from the MMR Foundation. Sarah is a two-time certified, she's a certified Salesforce administrator, a certified Salesforce nonprofit consultant. She is a power user. And with that, I am going to stop sharing. And you want to take over the screen, Sarah?
Let me just...
Or you want me to just, you can say next slide if you want.
Oh, sure. Let's just do that. It might be a bit easier.
Okay. So next slide. Well,
you got it.
hold on. You think that's easy, right?
Better you than me. So just a quick introduction to myself. My name is Sarah Gantz. I'm the Salesforce admin, business analyst, process analyst for the MMRF. I also manage our donor services or donations team. Just a quick introduction on the MMRF, if you haven't heard from us or about us. We're a nonprofit in Norwalk, Connecticut. Timeline-wise, I just want to give you an incredible story about our founder. Our founder, Kathy Giusti, was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is an incurable blood cancer, back in 1996. She was given 3 years to live at the age of 37. In 1998, she founded the MMRF with her sister, her twin sister, Karen. And if you fast forward 24 years post her diagnosis, or 20 years later with the MMRF, you know, we've helped to bring over 80 clinical trials for multiple myeloma onto the market. I think we're about 12 drugs now that the FDA, we've helped steward with the FDA. The lifespan of a myeloma patient is 3 times longer now. And we actually have the largest genomic data set of all cancer research, and we're continuing to grow that. So obviously our mission is to cure cancer, multiple myeloma specifically. And then just a background on Kathy is her really interesting person. She's splits her time between the MMRF and Harvard Business School's Craft Precision Medicine Accelerator. So she is really a trailblazer in precision medicine and quite a visionary. She's an interesting, very interesting woman to follow. I guess next slide. So I joined the MMRF back in 2018, and this is what our ecosystem looked like. I know it's a little sparse, but that's what it was. We were on Salesforce Classic. It was NPSP. We had very low adoption. We had about 20 people working for the company, probably 5 people, including the 2 on my team that used it the most. We had lack of internal ownership over processes, data, disconnected data, spreadsheets all over the place. 0 reporting. They couldn't even tell you how many patients were in their database at the time. And no routine data hygiene. And there was about 700,000 people in this database that I inherited. So I had to start somewhere. We'll go to the next slide. Sorry, next slide. Oh.
Hold on.
If you fast forward.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I've got, you know, for a tech guy, I've got, let me see if, there we go.
I don't think I could have done much better, to be honest with you.
I got it now. I got the right, you see, it's having the right tool, and you're good to go. There you go. That's where you want to be, right?
Yep. So 2 years later, this is my ecosystem. Majority of this was built by myself. I think I've had help from one consultant for our patient navigation center. We moved that to Service Cloud. So I rolled them onto Lightning back in 2018. That was almost the first thing I did. I will never go back to Classic. Lightning is just an amazing platform. We've connected Pardot to our website. We've built a preference center. We implemented Social Studio, which is a really cool social tool. We have blown up our programs, if you will, and we don't have traditional programs like most nonprofits do, but we track clinical trial enrollment in Salesforce. Our whole contracts, legal contracts, are all connected to our accounts in Salesforce. We manage our entire grants pipeline in there. We recently implemented a venture fund called the Myeloma Investment Fund that is also managed directly in Salesforce. And then we brought our patient navigation center in-house. That was previously a third-party vendor. We had no connection to the data. And so we have 3 nurse navigators that take patient phone calls and triage them and help them find the right doctors and the right treatment, all managed through Salesforce Service Cloud. We've exploded our data as well. So we have reports and dashboards for everything. All our data is backed up. There's routine data hygiene like Experian NCOA address verification. We're looking at, in purple is things I'm sort of on my roadmap to do. So we're looking at Einstein Analytics. We're looking marketing-wise to bring in customer journeys so we can give a better experience to our donors. On the fundraising side is really where I'm going to talk about today. And so I came in and I reorganized their entire database. I took a lot of processes that were manual, brought it in, and now I'm really concentrating on fundraising and really finding the right platform for the MMRF. We have about 80 events that we do a year. And on top of that, just general appeals that we need to make sure are connected into Salesforce in the right way. So with that said, it was really evaluating and just bring everyone on to get adoption to this product. There's now internal ownership over these because I've given them a reason to do and go in Salesforce every day. Everything is really connected. Again, no more spreadsheets. So it's really flourishing, our environment. So if you can see that, it's kind of crazy, but it's what I manage every day.
Yeah, and it's manageable by one person. That's the point.
It's right. Yeah, that's me.
So it's complicated, but it's doable. Yeah. Can I ask you a couple of questions? Because there's some people out there that may not know some of the terminology, and I think it's important that we clear that. So can you tell me what a cloud is in the Salesforce context? So we have Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, you mentioned.
Sure. I mean, I consider them just different platforms that do different things. Obviously, cloud being the data stored in the cloud, but Sales Cloud is where NPSB sort of lives, and that's really, we use it for our donor fundraising, but also we use it to manage our pharma partners, things like that. Our Service Cloud is really about, so Salesforce is made up of sort of different clouds, if you will. Service Cloud is really about a call center and managing, incoming inquiries into a call center. So you can connect your phone systems into it, manage your, really your help desk items, if you will. There's plenty of other clouds out there as well, it's Health Cloud, things like that, that are really industry sort of related, so.
Yeah, and they've coming out with, they've got a program module now with.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, with case management. That used to be somebody else's cloud, but Salesforce has been in. And can you just also talk about the difference between classic Salesforce and Lightning Salesforce you referred to?
Sure. So Classic was the original sort of layout of Salesforce. It was a lot of, I call it the dinosaur of Salesforce. I hate to say it like that, but I feel like that's what it is. It's the layout was very much a scroll, find everything. So it was a long way to find a lot of data. It was ugly. I felt it very hard to navigate. Lightning is all about organizing data into tabs, and it's so much more flexible with branding, and you can create, and what we've done for our company is create different apps so that each department or team has their own environment within Sales Cloud so that they're only seeing the data that they need to every day or the apps that they need to see every day. So it's really just a more flexible, a very more aesthetically pleasing system.
Yeah, and so there are some hardcore old timers that will swear by Classic. If anybody's just starting on Salesforce and you hear that they should be in Classic, that you should be working in Classic, say no, because Lightning is the future. There's all sorts of functionality built into Lightning. So always use Lightning. And if you're not a Lightning user and you're still a Classic user, get with it and move on. So.
I had a few people that refused to move over to to Lightning when I first started. They just didn't understand it, and now I have no one back in Classic. So,
and I think one question: when everybody sees all this different data, how do you deal with? I mean, you're dealing with a lot of confidential information, I suspect, and how do you deal with that in Salesforce?
Sure. So the MMRF, though we deal with patients and patient data, clinical trials, that we are not a covered entity, and we still abide by HIPAA compliant laws. So everything we build, we make sure is walled off, including even Myeloma Investment Fund. So there are so many security features about Salesforce, be it profiles, roles, again, those apps that I was talking about that are for those departments, that I can able to wall off data, and then I can let people into these worlds, if you will, via permission sets. So it's just so flexible with, everything down to a field, and you can even label a field, HIPAA compliant field to track that. But it's so flexible. So it's just it's very easy to wall off data. But again, it's planning that out when you're bringing a process into Salesforce, planning that out ahead of time. It's much easier to lock down and let up than to go the opposite direction.
Perfect. Next slide.
Yep, next slide.
God, I got to tell you, it's a time for a new mouse, I think. There we go. I went the wrong way, right?
Yep.
There we go. Okay.
All right. So to talk about our fundraising platform. So when I stepped in here, I inherited a fundraising platform and a very disconnected spreadsheet. And we've just been sort of evaluating that over the last year. So as you saw, our ecosystem is really exploding. We've had, we're improving our donor patient experience every day by the quality of our data, the services that we offer, even bringing the call center in-house. We have our organizational needs changing. We've grown from 20 people to 50 over the last 2 years. Our expectations are then increasing in this company as well. So, people want more reports and data and better data. And we inherited a very overly customized system. And what I've found over the last few years is that that's really not fixable. There's so many Band-Aids you can put on a system before you realize you have to do something about it. So we're really outgrowing our current fundraising platform. Next slide.
And is this platform currently was built within Salesforce and you're upgrading it, or this was completely different?
It was actually an outside platform or vendor. We were one of their first clients. It's really a peer-to-peer platform. So it's meant for, like 5Ks endurance, crowdfunding, team funding. So we've put some other sort of like our independent events or do-it-yourself events go on there. We have a tribute platform on there as well, so to memorialize a loved one. And so just a lot of different events on it. So it was an outside platform, but that's because of the need that we have in our business.
Okay, so you're now migrating what was Salesforce without fundraising to Salesforce with fundraising.
Correct. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, now you're going to make me challenged here.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
So we had very strong criteria for our next partner. Our first thing ever was a partnership in customer service. I used to manage a call center in my prior life. Customer service is key. And I truly believe in a partnership. So these vendors that you work with that are potentially outside apps or software that connect into Salesforce, it's really important to make sure you have a partnership with them. We wanted a robust and flexible Salesforce integration. Before, with the old platform that we had, we couldn't really change anything. If we had a custom question that we were asking, or we wanted this piece of data to connect into Salesforce, we couldn't do it without a fee and additional work being done from that platform. We wanted marketing segmentation, Google Analytics. We wanted to track better data so we can get the right message out to the right people via email or social. Really enrich our data. Duplicate management was huge. Again, I said we had 700,000 people in our database. We intake about 60,000 people a year into this database. I can't have duplicates in there. Things like reporting analytics, ease of use for internal users and external users, making sure it's really user-friendly for our donors and fundraisers was also important. And then it's highly customizable and can maintain our brand integrity. The MMRF is really, it's really a brand, and we want to make sure that it feels and looks like the MMRF. So we went through an RFP process over the last 6 months or so to find the right partner. And we actually use all three of these platforms today. Some will be with us for a while, others will be phased out, but Classy is really our top partner at the moment. They're incredible. I mean, Rallybound's a great platform too. One Cause has auction and bidding that we need. So we use these all in different ways, but Classy is sort of what we're moving to at the moment.
And the relationship between these apps and Salesforce. So Salesforce is kind of the backbone.
Yep.
For housing data and certain basic workflows. What's the relationship of these? Is that on the next slides? I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
It's not. It's just so these are third-party sort of vendors or platforms that integrate into Salesforce and integrate well into the NPSP platform. So it's important to make sure it connects into those functionality pieces, like the donations, your opportunities, your allocations, your soft credits and hard credits. So though it's a third-party software, they really integrate well into Salesforce. Classy is actually backed by Salesforce Venture, so they really have a vested interest in making sure their Salesforce integration is top-notch.
Mm-hmm. And so just so to give context, what you're seeing is the platform and ecosystem in action, right? Salesforce is a hub, so to speak, upon which Sarah and most every other organization is adding applications that other people have developed that make this a more powerful and robust platform.
Yep, and again, it depends on the needs of what you're looking, what you're trying to do. We don't just take in a general donation. We hold, again, 5Ks, and we have fundraisers and teams that we need to be able to connect in. So using a third-party vendor for us, these apps that connect in was ideal.
Right.
We have very complex fundraising, I guess.
Right. And again, the key to Salesforce being an open source cloud-based environment, like an iPhone, like Amazon Prime, like a lot of these applications, is that you don't have to get something specially coded by a developer that takes months to do, and then you have it all buggy and doesn't really work, and you have to change it. You have all these applications to meet your particular need that are being tried and tested by, again, hundreds, if not thousands of people across the world. So it's a different mindset. It's not a software mindset. It's a platform mindset, right?
That's a great point. I mean, to get one of these pages, a fundraising page, up and running and integrated into Salesforce takes about, I don't know, an hour or two. It doesn't take a lot of time, and it's really saved us.
And you got good data.
We do. I won't go into all the lessons learned, but as you explore all the different apps that can connect into Salesforce, and especially in the fundraising world, we've learned that there's really no one-size-fits-all platform. Again, we're a very different type of fundraising. We're not just taking in general donations, but we have, memorial donations, and we have 5Ks, endurance, and all of those different types of fundraising. It's not always going to fit into a one-size solution. Another thing is evaluating if you need a Salesforce partner up front. I've decided to take on moving and migrating Classy myself, only because I've done this type of project. But I really have to work with and make sure all of our departments are involved in this cross collaboration for adoption of these. So it may not be, ideal for, one person to take on a project like that. You have to evaluate if you need a partner to do it. If I can't stress anything enough, it's please don't over customize your platform. If you feel like you have band-aids and you're trying to figure out how to fix it constantly, there's a problem. So I've always said use out of the box Salesforce as much as you can, no matter what part of Salesforce, before going and customizing, including find an app that works better than actually just building something custom. It's very hard to maintain. Sometimes you have to get creative within your boundaries. You have to learn HTML. We've learned that over the course of a few weeks, a lot of us, to get this up and running. And then also just sometimes, it's making connection between all of your websites and as well. So what we learned was our website didn't connect necessarily into these fundraising pages. We had to find a bridge, a landing page, if you will, to make that connection over so that our donors had the right path over to these fundraising pages.
And just to add to that, like Salesforce is a platform, it's an ecosystem, so is WordPress, so are some other platforms upon which very complex and very simple workflows and digital assets are developed. So again, just think about creating a microsite does not mean lots of time and energy and expense. There are fast and easy ways to do it based on some sort of platform, right? Are you using any of those?
We use WordPress for our website, and we really just wanted to make sure that, again, we have about 80 events. We wanted to make sure we were displaying these events in a meaningful way and a cohesive way to our donors. So it wasn't hard to find an event, be it a patient-focused event or a 5K. So we designed a few landing pages that allow us to connect to the right app. So be it Classy or One Cause or some of our webinars as well. But it was quite simple to get up and running. Go the next slide. Before I get too much into this, I was going to go into a few other creative fundraising ways or ideas that we do with the MMRF. Quickly on Facebook fundraising, MMRF actually connected into Facebook about, a year and a half ago. We were on, so if you don't know in Facebook fundraising, Facebook actually prompts its users to start a birthday fundraiser, which is really interesting. And what we were finding is that, before we had set up Facebook fundraising, we were getting donations in through a company called Network for Good. And we realized that Network for Good didn't brand our company or our organization the way that we wanted it to. It was like a little heart-shaped logo, and you really didn't know if it was us. We since moved over to Facebook fundraising, which again is a no-cost transaction. But we're now branded, and our logo is up on Facebook, searchable by users. We see about $600,000 a year in Facebook fundraising come through, which is incredible.
Nice number.
Yeah, it's a great number. We don't get the donor data per se because of those scandals with Facebook selling data, but we're okay with that because we make that much money off Facebook fundraising. And we don't have to do a lot. Facebook prompts people and people want to give. So they're donating their birthdays to us, and we just make sure that we're thanking them for doing that. On top of that, we always look out for different programs like Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday now is just on May 5th. So we're trying to always look for what are other industry companies doing that we could tap into. On top of that, matching gifts is a massive fundraising source for the MMRF. We, on average, make about $360,000 in matching gifts a year. We allow our fundraisers to use that towards their fundraising goals. So it's really important that we're making that connection so that they can see that in their fundraising goals. But we started a new program with matching gifts to really proactively reach out to our donors and let them know of their programs. A lot of people actually don't know their company has a program. So we are using Pardot, which is our marketing automation system, to send these emails. But the first thing and there's tools out there that do this. There's Double the Donation. I think Hep Data has their own program. We use that to be able to have like a search tool to allow people to know if their company participates in a matching gift. But we've built the actual automation of these emails in-house using Pardot. So the first thing that we actually do is we ask for employer name on all of our donation or registration forms. So something like, ask for employer name for matching gifts, right? And if people voluntarily put that information in, we'll reach out and we'll research if that company has a gift program or not. And if they don't, it might get more of a generic template, but at least we're trying to get them to think about the fact that they could do a match for us. So we advertise matching gifts anywhere and everywhere we can. We add language on our donation receipts. We do it through direct mail, our emails, any landing pages that we can put it on, we put it everywhere. So it's just really promoting that type of program wherever you can. And that exposure gets people to think about, how can I match my gift today? Mm-hmm. So if you go to the next slide.
Question for you. This is a Pardot form, right?
So actually the form that we intake, so it's any donation form that you use, right? So it's, if you are able to add a custom question on, that's what we do. It's actually, this is a Class E form, but we do it on Rallybound, OneCause, anywhere that we intake donations.
But it does all integrate into Salesforce.
It does, right? And it comes down and we integrate this onto our opportunities because we want it, so it goes onto the donation record in Salesforce rather than onto a contacts record because their employer may change over time. So you want to capture it at the time with that donation, but it integrates right in.
Got it. And then for anybody who wasn't on the call last month, the notion of opportunities and contacts and accounts and campaigns, that's all Salesforce language.
Yeah.
And if you want, it's language you need to understand, you need to define. And if you weren't on last month, email me directly and we'll send you the slide deck, which explains all those things for you. And then some more of the language, like what is an object, what is an instance. It's unfortunate there's some jargon, but once you learn it, it's going to be easy, but you need to learn it. Otherwise your eyes are going to cross, quite frankly.
I apologize. I live in that world every day. So sometimes forget I speak that language.
Yeah.
So again, the data is integrating right into our database. We have a view of our donations that come in either that week, that day, and we look specifically for people who have filled out this matching gift employer field. So if they provided a company, and again, it's not really standardized, so you're looking at people putting Oracle Corp, Corporation in there, but we're trying to group it all and look at it in a cohesive view. So I have a matching gift specialist, as I call her, Nikki. She's actually on the call. Her job is to prospect our database every day, every week, to find all of our employers and potential gifts that we could reach out to send them a customized awareness email about their program. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for our donors to get a match. So we provide either custom template, right, and it tells them about their program. It gives them, the name of either their email that they need to email or a link to the form they need to fill out. So we're really handing this to them instead of like having them go and look and talk to HR and figure out where their program is. So we take the data from Salesforce, some of it is automated, some has to be put into Pardot, but we're able to send an email right out to those donors as soon as they give us this information in. And we've seen a lot of success with this program.
And the data on the company match program you're getting for free from Double Your Donation?
Yeah, so we're constantly looking at double the donation. So anyone can go and look at that up, and use that tool. We pay for it, the tool itself, we pay for access to that, so we can place a link on our website so people can go and try and look up their employer. It's quite inexpensive yearly. I know they have a program that automates their emails for them, and that might be better for smaller companies, but it was quite expensive for us. So we decided to take on this program ourselves, but we do get all that information right from Double's search tool.
And for those of you who don't know what Pardot is, that's yet another Salesforce cloud, so to speak. So it's their marketing automation cloud.
Yep.
So Sarah, I'm going to start off with a question to you, not that I haven't. So it's question time, guys, and feel free to pick our brains, whether it's a very basic question about Salesforce and fundraising, or whether it's a complex or sophisticated one. In Sarah, you have a real power user, so this is a great opportunity for us to share and learn from each other. So let's do that. But I'm going to start this. Talk to me about recurring donations, and do you have kind of a focus on that at all, and what does it may mean to you, and what's your thoughts about how to track recurring donations in Salesforce?
Okay, that's a great question. My actual background is in wine and diamonds, so I come from luxury goods. The wine company I used to work for did recurring wines every, or a shipment of wine every 3 to 4 months. It was so crucial to our business, those customers, to keep and retain those. Recurring giving is no different within the fundraising world. It's so that population of people, to get them to give, it actually is a better donor. So we have struggled, I'll be honest and say we've struggled to retain and get people to give recurring gifts, but that's because of the platform we were on. The new platform we're moving to, Classy, is really good at recurring giving. There have plenty of knowledge and knowledge-based articles that are out there that you can read for free about this, but we're really trying to grow that program. They make it very easy to want people to, so you can default people to, reoccurring give. So you can default your forms to get to have people donate on a reoccurring basis or not. They can manage all of their reoccurring giving themselves on this platform. So we're really actually just revamping this entire program now, because we've learned that it's really should be our bread and butter. So we're looking at how can we also incentivize? Do we, have some sort of, gift at the end of the year for them, or like a membership or tier level? So we're really looking at like just what's the right thing to do to get more people to give on a steady basis.
Mm-hmm. And you're finding the capability within Salesforce, or the apps that integrate with Salesforce, are handling recurring donations?
Yep. So all 3 of the apps that we've used all integrate in and use the native reoccurring giving app, or sort of, object within Salesforce NPSP. So the connection's direct in, and then that platform's actually taking care of obviously hitting that donation every month, but then it keeps track automatically for us in Salesforce. So it's a seamless connection.
Got it. Okay, so we've got some questions coming in, both through chat and through questions and answers. That's fine. We'll take from both. So Rachel, a good friend of mine, is asking, what's the cost difference between Classy and Network for Good, as an example?
So Network for Good is not actually a platform. I think it's just a person or a way to receive in donations. So I think it's like a company that processes the donations for Facebook donations in. Classy is, I can't really speak to the cost, because I think it depends on the size of your company, how much you annually take in every year for funds. There really is a customized cost for every one of these kind of platforms. So it's tough to say on cost. Again, we are a pretty big company, $50 million a year, I think we take in revenue. So costs would be different for us versus a smaller, but they do have different packages levels that you can buy into. And sometimes they also offer their platform for free. So like on Giving Tuesday now, they allowed people to use that, a donation page for absolute free to take in donations.
Yeah, and I think the question generalized is, what do you want from a platform? So if it's a basic, if it's a basic, if it's basic transaction, somebody comes onto your site, donate now off your website. There's some real simple, inexpensive, and I venture to say free, absent credit card fees tools, and that's called IATS and Brickworks, which a lot of smaller organizations are used with a good Salesforce integration. Network for Good, again, really does not speak well, does not play well in the sandbox. They used to try to integrate with Salesforce. They abandoned that out of a desire to develop their own CRM. That was probably a mistake for them. But I'm not their corporate strategist, so I'll let them make their own decisions.
And I think isn't Salesforce coming out with their own as well over the summer? I think they're coming out with a no-fee platform.
Yes, yes they are. Yes, they are. So Salesforce is coming out with their own, coming out this summer. So that's really exciting. That's going to be native to Salesforce by Salesforce. And that's really both specifically for NPSP, but Salesforce is moving into e-commerce generally. So it's kind of that venture. Classy, I wouldn't even compare Classy to Network for Good. Classy is really the Cadillac platform for peer-to-peer fundraising out there. There is no better. Yeah. But it is not cheap. I think the initial cost to play is in the neighborhood of $3,000. But if you're running 90 different events across the country, Classy is the place to go. And we know lots of people who've used Classy really very successfully. It's a wonderful platform, but you got to really want to be doing peer-to-peer really well.
I agree.
So Amy Rubin Mindell, apologies. Does Facebook send a receipt or a gift receipt, or how do you thank the person for not necessarily all the donors, but the person who is having the birthday event?
Yep. So Facebook actually takes care of all the receipting. There's no fees to the organization as well, so that's nice. We don't have to take care of tax receipts. It can get confusing to donors because sometimes they'll call you and you have to refer them back to Facebook to do either a refund or get a receipt. You can, in your business manager of Facebook, you can download a report monthly. I think it's always a month lag behind. You can also see a list of all of your fundraisers who are participating in a birthday or type of fundraiser for you. So we look through either that reporting or we look in Business Manager to see who's fundraising for us, and just send a quick thank you to them, on their post.
Right. Let's see, I'm going to call up another one. Here's a question. Sarah, how valuable is it to be Salesforce certified?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I'm actually very, very opinionated about this. I've worked with a lot of consultants that were certified, many certifications over, and didn't even know how to set up a user in Salesforce. So I prolonged my certifications for a good couple of years because I truly wanted to get to know the product and know the vast majority of it. And I've worked in the for-profit world with Salesforce, the nonprofit world with Salesforce. And so I actually just got my certification. So I've been in it for a couple of years now, 3 years, 4 years. I got my certifications at Dreamforce last year, both back to back. So, and I plan to get more. It's very addicting. But I think it's really about vetting, either the partner that you're working with, or if you're using an outside person, what's their background? My background is business analyst and process analyst. So I have a very different background. I worked in an ERP system before. I worked in Salesforce. It's a much larger system. So I had a very different background. But it's valuable, but I think you just have to be ready for it too.
Got it. And so I would agree with Salesforce. I would agree with what Sarah's saying. The question is, what do you want to be certified for? So there's two different 24 different certifications, from developer to verticals, whether it's nonprofit or health or finance. There's developer 1, there's developer 2, there's administrator 1, administrator 2. So there are tremendous job opportunities in the marketplace for people who know Salesforce. Again, it's the single largest CRM in the world right now, as far as I understand. Microsoft probably is coming up behind, but Salesforce is the leader. So from a career development standpoint, Salesforce certification is useful. If you want to be a Salesforce consultant, Salesforce certification could be useful. If you want to be a Salesforce partner, like iMission or any other consulting firm, Salesforce certifications are essential. Again, is it about career advancement? It's about learning, because it's structured learning, or is it about credential? So I think that's all the questions. Another question, Rob, what is the advantage of a consultant? Is a consultant for Salesforce NPSP fundraising? Oh God, I'm not going to try to sell my service now. So that would be an inappropriate thing for me to do in a users group meetup. But I'm going to let Sarah answer why she may or may not use a consultant either for fundraising or any other cloud or application.
So I think it depends on your internal resources. If you have a capable admin or a developer, if you don't and you have no one who can really help you navigate that water, it's really useful to get a consultant on board up front. They can really, help you with structuring your database. How do you move over all of your data? And we've done a few moves from different databases. I think they used Blackbaud and Luminate before they used Salesforce at the MRF. So that partner really helps you evaluate where you were and how do you move on to, and then all the processes that you want to bring in, and how do you structure, it from the get-go, the whole database. So it's valuable, especially if you just don't have a capable resource or any resource to partner.
And whether you use a consultant or whether you use the users group or some other informal connections or the vast number of resources that Salesforce has for you to learn, like Trailhead, like the Power of Us community, lots of other ways you can learn, and including direct support from Salesforce. That's a paid privilege, but they do have a pro bono program as well. So if you're just getting started, that can be helpful. What's really important is that in order to get adoption and to feel empowered as opposed to disempowered, just make sure that you have a way to get an answer to get through the next step, however that might be. And it's better to collect a bunch of resources to get that done. So just think about that. You just don't want to get locked up when you're trying to do something. Get fast answers so you can serve people, so you can get adoption. What do you think of that, Sarah?
It makes sense. I'm very much always looking out for resources and connecting and just making sure, I'm talking to other nonprofits constantly about what they're doing. That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's why the users group exists, guys. So if you are not part of our users group, please join. We're getting close to the end, so I'm going to give this. I'm going to do two things. One, to tell you what's coming up. Hopefully, some of these can be in person. They will always be available through digital, but hopefully they're in person. In June, I believe it's on the 18th, we are going to do a presentation on Salesforce and program management. We may incorporate grant management into that. And we expect a couple of really cool people to present what's going on, people in the users group to present what they're going to be doing, what they're doing, and that should be a great event. Salesforce and program management it's for anybody who's really interested in trying to measure impact over time and making sure you're not a collection of 15, 18, 10, 30 different programs, but you're actually managing somebody's relationship with you, with your mission over time. Program management is key. We're going to take the summer off. Then in September, we are going to have a session on Salesforce and accounting system integration. I think Salesforce is about people and how they interact with us and what they're doing with us, but accounting systems are a thing of themselves. But there are important places where these two systems need to sync, whether you're on QuickBooks or a Blackbaud financial package or Intact or some other package. We will have people discussing kind of those integrations, and that at that time we'll also present a new feature that Salesforce has come out that makes that integration easier. In October, we're going to talk about Salesforce and advocacy. Lots of organizations, advocacy organizations, large and small across the country, are using Salesforce to keep track of their advocates, to engage their advocates, to excite and mobilize their advocates. So important, a very exciting opportunity. Again, at this point, those are mostly third-party apps that integrate nicely. Apps like Salsa, One Click Politics, and some others. And then the request has been made for the next panel to be on just a full panel on kind of how do you get started? What does implementation look like? How do you think about workflows? How do you start with a clean sheet before you even crack open Salesforce? And why clean data is important, but don't get clean data paralysis and how to get beyond that. So that'll be November, December. And let me just cover just a few more things. Salesforce is coming out with a bunch of stuff, just ongoing improvements in terms of the basic NPSP, and we'll be in the community talking about those. They'll be introducing Elevate, which is an integrated digital fundraising solution. That's where the online fundraising pages will be, where your donors can interact with you online and make payments within Salesforce, as opposed to Classy or Brickworks or Click and Pledge or whatever else you might be using. And then incredibly exciting, what came out just a few weeks ago is their program management module with case management. Again, so you can track your relationship with your people across programs over time, and have and really understand your impact and provide really great insight into are we really moving the needle? Are we really doing the good that we think we should be doing, and provide us great insight in how to do that better. And finally, they've come out with a financial subledger, which lets us speak to lots of different accounting packages in easier ways. That's what we got for you today. Again, if you're not already part of the Salesforce, the Connecticut Salesforce, Connecticut Nonprofit Salesforce Users Group, and that's again, like digital transformation, a mouthful, but please join us. Even if you're not in Connecticut and you want to engage with us digitally, we'd love to have you. So with that said, Sarah, thank you so much for participating as a user group member, as a Salesforce Power user, and as a Connecticut resident.